Hello, I am Ann Craddock, and I will be presenting for you my nursing application of Troutman-Jordan's theory of successful aging. The central cell depicts how I would apply this theory into practice as a nurse supporting a patient to identify ways to improve their aging process after a myocardial infarction. I chose the theory of successful aging as a means to identify how best to guide those in my care who may fall into aging traps and better inform them of ways to improve on the lives they are still living. This theory has affected my nursing practice by allowing me to better understand how to identify the interventions that will impact patients in the most positive of ways, to perhaps help them improve their course of aging. Starting to the right of this slide, the role of the nurse is to identify where the patient is in their process of coping with their MI. What level of physical health were they operating at before the event? Are they able to ambulate independently at this time? Identifying what resources are needed to promote this patient to a level of independence is a priority. Teaching the patient about lifestyle changes, new medications, and dietary improvements will help the patient to see ways they can take control over their circumstances. Each patient has a varying ability to cope with aging, and each will require different levels of intervention and support. Encouraging mobility and improving physical health will improve on the process of aging and will also impact their mental health. Moving on to the bottom center of our map, we will discuss the mental health aspect of how the patient is coping in regard to their recent health event. The nurse can support their patient's ideas for coping in a positive, creative way. Adapting to a health event, such as an MI, requires initial support from the nurse and then allows the opportunity for the nurse to transition that support as the patient identifies their own social supports, creative outlets, and even new activities. Shifting from the nurse being in control to allowing the patient to recognize their own degree of control over their future can help the patient feel empowered. Ultimately, the patient has the power over their aging process. The third coping aspect in this theory is that of spirituality. The belief in something bigger than yourself helps an individual cope with the prospect of advancing age. A person's spirituality does not need to be a belief in a religion, but can simply be a connection that is found with peers, with family, with nature, with God, or simply with a feeling of energy. A person's love of themselves has an impact on how they will approach difficult events, such as in the case of a heart attack. Assumptions that can be made through the application of this theory are based on the knowledge that people may choose to adjust to life events, or they may choose not to. Every individual has freedom to choose the kind of life they want to live, but each person deserves to be given correct information from which they may apply to themselves if they so choose. At the bottom of this concept map, you will find gerotranscendence. This aspect of successful aging can be most often realized in later life. Achievement of gerotranscendence occurs when the individual has recognized that death is a part of life, and the fear associated with it is minimized. Acceptance that death is inevitable, they may view their reason for living in a different way. This aspect of successful aging occurs with deep reflection on life and will occur with a conscious effort made to achieve a state of peace with life. For the theory of successful aging, the application to nursing practice is that the role of the nurse is to bring information to the patients that we care for, so that the opportunity is presented to the patient to implement those changes. The goal is always to optimize health. Connection of this theory to the nursing meta paradigm is in regard to patient, that the patient drives any theory application. As far as environment, the patient is influenced by their surroundings, positive or negative. In regard to health, the patient can choose to have impact on their health and improve their longevity. And as far as in regard to nursing, the nurses are the education and support system. Propositions of the theory of successful aging are that learning to age does not begin in the later years. Our lives are filled with decisions to care for ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. And it is a conscious decision to learn from those around us and ultimately adapt and cope with the inevitable process of aging. Those that achieve gerotranscendence have an understanding and peace about life and death. Those individuals who continually adapt to the changes in their lives as they age can also cope best with each event that alters the familiar. Whether we choose to apply what we learn in life to better cope with aging is where the divide in successful aging grows.